Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and today we're going to talk about the top 5 things that I don't like about the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. Now, in an earlier video, I did the top 5 things that I like, and to be completely honest with you, the 5 things that I like do slightly outweigh the 5 things that I don't like. However, it's important to know that there are some things that are flaws with this device in my opinion. The first is the battery life. Now, the S7 Edge has a much larger battery than last year's versions of this device. Last year with the S6, we saw battery issues pretty much across the board with all their devices. There was absolutely no way you were going to make it through an entire day of normal use on a phone and still have battery life left at the end of the day. Coming from having used iPhones in the past, I've almost always been able to get through an entire day with a charge on an iPhone, even under heavy usage. With the iPhone 6s Plus or the Plus series, the larger phone, those phones will last 2 days sometimes on a battery charge. Now, granted, there are trade-offs and things that you're lacking in an iPhone versus a device such as this, but battery life does come down to a factor for me. When I'm traveling, when I'm out and about, I don't always want to have to be worrying about how much battery life I have left on my device. I want to be able to get through the day without having any issues. So battery life, albeit tons better than it was last year for the S7 line, it's not as good as it could be considering the size of the device. Second thing is a borderline useless single-handed mode that Samsung has here. You can enable single-handed mode so that you can triple click on your home button and it will put you in single-handed mode. Now, the problem with their single-handed mode is that all it does is shrink the entire screen down and put it down into the corner, which makes everything really tiny. On the iPhone, it pulls everything down a bit and allows you to still have the full width of your screen so that if you are trying to, tap on something that's relatively small, you're still able to do that. Now, I'm not going to say it's a completely useless single-handed mode because it is better than nothing, and some could argue that having the entire screen shrunk is better than having the screen go down halfway and only having access to a portion of the screen. So it could go back and forth. For me, if I'm going into single-handed mode, it's because I'm trying to reach something at the top of my screen that's a little hard to reach, versus wanting my entire screen shrunk down. I think that smaller screens in single-handed mode make it harder for you to get done what you're trying to get done. I can reach all the way across my screen just fine. What I can't do is necessarily reach to the top of the screen. And I understand that some of you may disagree with me on that. For me, it's just the way that I use the phone, and single-handed mode might work great for some of you based on the way that you use the phone. The next thing is Samsung's TouchWiz UI that they throw over the top of Android. Now, TouchWiz has gotten much less in your face than it has been in the past. Samsung has definitely been known for throwing a lot of features into a phone that may or may not be useful for everybody. And the reason there is that this is a phone that's geared towards everybody out there in the world, and so they have to have features for each of us, and that means adding a lot of things on top. Now, this device uses up a lot of memory initially, being that it only comes with, my next point, 32 gigabytes of storage. It means that you're going to lose almost 10 of those gigabytes right off the bat based off of the amount of storage that the operating system uses, and then when the operating system starts to cache some of its needed stuff, it's going to use up almost 10 gigs right off the bat. So for me, being technically limited to a 22 gigabyte phone is not necessarily good. I'm now getting into my next point. So TouchWiz, although it does have a lot of neat features, and I'm not gonna say that it's horrible, I'm just gonna say it's not my favorite because stock Android is pretty great. And then there's some features that, of course, are decent that Samsung has added. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's not one of my favorite things. It's definitely one of the things that I dislike more than I like. But nonetheless, Samsung has gotten better at it, so I can't knock them for getting better. 32 gigabytes of storage, like I've already kind of talked about. You can put a memory card in this phone, which I have a 64 chip in here right now. The problem is that not all apps can be moved over to that 64 chip. A majority of them actually can't. So even their storage can't as well. So you still have to rely on internal storage, even though you can expand your storage. Really, the only thing that expanded storage is good for is for photos, videos, and music. And though a lot of people, that's the majority of their storage, for me, I have a lot of apps on my device. Some of those apps definitely have data that is needed to run them. And that data, there's no option to get it over to your SD card. And so my device ends up filling up pretty quickly and I have less memory left. And to me, I've noticed that with Android devices, they need to have a bit of storage left to operate before they start getting kind of laggy. The last thing, micro USB. I know it's a small complaint considering micro USB has been around for so long. The micro USB is the charging port down here on the bottom. Today, most of the newer phones are USB Type-C, and the thing that I really like about USB Type-C is just you can plug it in without having to pay attention what direction you're plugging in your device. Having had iPhones, it makes it really easy just to be able to plug in the device without paying attention to which way the cable is facing. And I know it's a small thing, but it's something that I've just really liked about other Android devices as well as the iPhone. So those are the top 5 things that I dislike about this phone. A lot of those are kind of trivial things, and so don't get on me for the fact that some of those things may or may not matter. They're 5 things that definitely bug me about the phone, but they're not 5 things that keep me from loving the phone. I really think that this is one of the best devices that Samsung has ever produced, and I encourage you to go watch my other video where I talk about 5 things that I do like about this phone. So if you're interested in this phone, definitely check out the links in the description below where you can purchase it. If you have any questions or anything about the device, ask them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and like the video if you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you next time here on State of Tech.